days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk that. It's the 49ers cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. I was out at work when I got the news that the San Francisco 49ers had extended Brock Purdy, and boy, was I excited. I couldn't wait to get home and be able to get in the studio and get live, and I'm really curious to see what everyone is feeling about Brock Purdy getting locked up, getting a deal done 2 months before training camp. This is great news for the 49ers. They've locked up George Kittle. Now they've locked up Brock Purdy, which is extremely big. So what does the Brock Purdy contract look like? This was the conversation that everyone wanted to know. Is it going to be $45 million? Is it going to be $60 million per year? Where is Brock Purdy going to slate? Well, actually, the 49ers, I think, did a pretty good job, and Brock Purdy did a good job of kind of meeting in the middle here. As Brock Purdy agreed to a 5-year deal worth $265 million, including $181 million in total guarantees. He's going to receive $165.05 million in the first 3 new years of the contract, which runs through 2030. So the San Francisco 49ers signed Brock Purdy to a $53 million per year contract. That ties him with Jared Goff for 7th highest paid player in the NFL, and the total in guarantees of $181 million ranks him 8th overall. And what's up to everyone in chat? I appreciate you coming through. And you know what? This is one of those things that we knew the 49ers needed to get done. And I believe it leaves them financial flexibility still. One of the keys was, how do we lock up our franchise quarterback and yet not extremely break the bank? We've seen the 49ers preparing for this all offseason. We've seen them leaving money, out there, making sure they didn't overspend so that way the Brock Purdy contract could come through, and they didn't disappoint, especially when you look at the fact that a lot of the money is coming in the first 3 new years of the deal. $165 million of it, they've front-loaded this contract. So they're preparing for this contract to hit in the next couple years, and then there's going to be some longevity with what they do after that. So extremely pumped about the 49ers getting Brock Purdy under contract, and I think what they did financially over the offseason now makes a little bit more sense with how they've structured this contract, where normally they would backload. They did not. They are putting their money where their mouth is. They're spending a lot of money, but Brock Purdy didn't go out to break the bank either. So people that were out there saying, hey, Brock is going to be very favorable to the 49ers and go ahead and take a little bit of a discount, I think he did. I think they easily could have pushed for more money. So that's one of the most interesting things is I feel like he got a comfortable deal that he's happy with. He gets $181 million right off the bat. And how about this? Over the life of his rookie contract, he made just over $3 million. Now he's going to make over $3 million per game. You talk about one of the biggest raises in the history of the world. That's what Brock Purdy did. He gets this huge deal. So it's absolutely fantastic. And I want to get into more of this. I want to get into your comments as well. But I got to say this. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Of course, if you were going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing. Or into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, full transparency, I did not know this deal was coming through today, and I was not prepared for this. I was actually preparing to get into the depth chart, start breaking down some of the key battles that are going to be happening during the offseason. But I'm very happy that this happened because we are seeing the 49ers check boxes in the offseason. They are doing a job of making sure that the offseason, and there's no distractions in this offseason. Last season, it felt like there was a lot of distractions. Guys didn't show up for workouts. Guys were injured during training camp. There were some of those contract situations lingering a little bit longer than they should. The Brandon Ayuk, is he going to be traded? And we've seen an effort from the 49ers players and front office to make sure that's not an issue this year. And this is one of the ways you do it. Brock Purdy showed up and they paid him. George Kittle showed up and they paid him. Fred Warner's there. Hopefully they're going to pay him as well. But they're setting a new precedent for how things are going to be handled. If you show up, we're going to get your deal done. And I think that this is a good precedence to set. And I love the fact that they got something done with Brock Purdy because you just didn't want this hanging over your head at all. And now you got your franchise quarterback through 2030. Now, Josh says it's a great deal compared to others like Goff and Dak. That's exactly right. So when you look at the highest paid quarterbacks per year, Dak Prescott is the highest paid quarterback, annual salary wise in the entire NFL. He makes $60 million. And when you take this into account, he's never even made it to an NFC championship game, but he's getting paid $60 million. Joe Burrow, well, that would make sense. He's went to a Super Bowl. He came just, really close to winning one, 55. Josh Allen, 55. Jordan Love, 55. The Jordan Love one's a little bit interesting and an outlier. Trevor Lawrence, 55. These guys are all being paid more than Brock Purdy, including Tua Tagovailoa, who's getting $53.1 million. So Brock Purdy comes just under Tua and just above Jared Goff. And I think that in the grand scheme of things, this is a really good contract for the 49ers. And I think that Brock Purdy feels happy with it. And I think knowing Brock Purdy's character, I think we all will feel comfortable with me saying this. Brock Purdy wants to win football games. Yeah, he wants to be compensated. He wants to be paid well. He wants to be able to take care of his family, which this money is going to abundantly do. But he also wants to make sure he can compete. He's a competitor. That's what I love about Brock Purdy. And I think that's what his teammates love as well. And what's up to Sean in the chat says, yeah, it's been a while. Aloha faithful. Yeah, good to see you. Welcome to chat. And, Sean also says he thinks it's a really fair deal. And I think whenever you can come out of a contract negotiations and both sides can feel good about it, I think that's where you hit, right? The 49ers get the money where they want, especially the annual salary at $53 million. Brock Purdy gets a lot of guaranteed money at $181 million. And we'll see the exact structure of the deal later on. But this is a great thing, and Randy says, hashtag TCC, thumbs up, happy day. It's a happy Friday. If you wanted to start a weekend off right, it's going out and getting Brock Purdy done, and getting a deal done. And I think that's huge. And Donald says, what's up, Ant and the rest of the TCC gang? Yeah, how's it going, Donald? Always good to have you in chat. Now, Dormillion is coming with a tough one here. He says, are we going to win a Super Bowl this year? I think that there's a lot that needs to play out before we can talk about winning a Super Bowl. I do think that there's things going the 49ers way as far as the schedule is very favorable as far as playoffs. And we've heard people say this before, and I'm a firm believer in it as well. You just have to get to the dance, and then you just never know what happens. Sometimes you can get hot. You can be a 9-7 New York Giants wildcard team and make it all the way to the Super Bowl and beat Tom Brady, who was undefeated at the moment, and win. So crazier things have happened. I think that there is a pathway for the 49ers to get there, but that is a question that's going to have to be answered well into the season with things that go on and injury concerns and a lot. So I would say this, I don't count them out. I also wouldn't bet the house on it because I just don't know how it's going to go on, but I do hope that they're in the running, and I do think they have a great chance to make the playoffs. And so that's exactly what you're trying to do, because then it gives you a shot. Josh says York just made a few billion. He's good. Yeah, right. I mean, the thing is, he just became flush with cash. He sold 6% of the San Francisco 49ers and got over $500 million. Well, yeah, he can give Brock Purdy $181 million in guaranteed money and not worry about it. That's the thing. When you sell off some of this capital, or I'm sorry, you sell off some of the, the business, you're going to get capital to be able to spend. You get flush with cash, and that's exactly what he did. So gives up equity, gets cash, and that's why it's a business. This thing is a huge business, and just getting Brock Purdy in is big. And Mark says, looks like the 49ers learned from last year, get the signings done early. I think that they got tired of this thing kind of filtering into training camp. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan did. There was never a time last year where it felt like the 49ers had everyone at training camp practicing at the same time. And I went out there several days, and it was just, who's missing this time, right? It was Feliciano was hurt. George Kittle would have a rest day. Christian McCaffrey was out. Trent Williams was never there. Brandon Ayuk was never there. There was no consistency, and they couldn't build any real chemistry with the players they had out. They are not doing that this year. And one of the things they're doing is making sure none of these contract situations are hanging over their head. And you got to give them credit for that. And I think that is huge to get done. And it's a big deal. And here's T.O., talking about Dak Prescott, $60 million, to watch from home. That's it, right? It's $60 million to watch the playoffs and Super Bowl at home. Brock has proven that he can win in the playoffs. If he's surrounded by good players, and this is for all quarterbacks, if you are surrounded by talent, you can get there. It's difficult for anyone to make it on their own, but Brock Purdy has made sure that, he is a capable quarterback that can still get it done when things are happening. And, T.O., I think, speaks for a lot of us. Hey, glad this is done. Excited for Brock Purdy, too. The fact that Brock Purdy can make the money that he deserves, it's 100% a good situation for Brock, and he's a good individual. And Mark says Brock's still cheaper than all of the quarterbacks if you add every year from day one. Right? I mean, the thing was, he was a super cheap commodity, and the 49ers needed to land a franchise quarterback at some point. And it comes, like Hugo says here, with a 7th rounder. When it's the last pick of the draft and the San Francisco 49ers select you, I don't know if they're ever looking at the situation thinking Brock Purdy is going to eventually be their franchise quarterback. I think they drafted him thinking maybe one day he'll be a very capable backup that we can feel comfortable with if we need to win a game. Probably the same way they're feeling about Curtis Rourke right now that they've drafted him. But instead, Brock Purdy has those intangibles. He has that something about him that makes him a franchise quarterback. And I think him getting paid, 7th most annually, 8th most when it comes to guaranteed money is right kind of where we believe he is, right? I mean, most people believe Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback. I know I do. And so the fact that he got paid there, I think this is going to age extremely well. This salary cap is going to keep going up, and the quarterbacks are going to keep getting these monster contracts, and they've got Brock Purdy signed through 2030. They've got an opportunity now that they know the structure of this contract to build a roster around Brock Purdy at quarterback. Now they can go spend strategically, whether that'll be this year or in the future. And I think it's going to be in the future. But now they know what the structure is, and now they know where the money is going to hit and when it's going to hit, and they can do everything else accordingly. But this contract had to come down the line. And I expect Fred Warner, the quarterback of the defense, to get a contract coming pretty soon. And what's up, Phil? Phil hits with the super chat. Always love when Phil comes through. With York selling off part of this team, making $555 million, will Jed pay for players? Yeah, I mean, it makes you flush with cash. So you sell off equity, that generates cash to be able to spend. Now, he won't go crazy, and really there's no reason to go crazy at this point. What are the deals that are out there? You could maybe trade for a player that would add financially, whether that would be like a Trey Hendrickson or someone like that. I don't think that they're going to do anything like this, these big moves. Maybe they will. But what it means is they'll be able to pay guys in the future. They'll be able to pay out these contracts, because when you guarantee money, you ship that money out right away. So you have to be flush with cash. And yes, they were very, very cheap when it came to contracts this season, it felt like. Now we'll see what happens. They have put together a roster still. I think we all want to see him spend, but I do think that generating cash with that deal definitely helps. And so I'm okay with that. Big Daddy 49er says, now we got nothing from holding us back from attacking this year. It's full speed ahead. The 49ers are getting things done. They're getting all their ducks in a row. I think the schedule coming out too gave everyone a real clear picture on the 49ers having a direct path to win a lot of football games and go somewhere. And I think now that they have the structure, if they did have anything they wanted to do, if they wanted to get a Gabe Davis, for instance, or an Amari Cooper, or someone like that to help the wide receiver room early on, they have the capabilities to do so. If they want to go ahead and figure out a deal with DJ Humphries and get that done, they have the ability to do so. This structure really helped the 49ers. Now they know what the money's going to look like. And that was always a key. So, yeah, it's full speed ahead. Let's go see what they can do. And, Eric says, I'm sure there's an escape hatch, guaranteed. With the money, all the guaranteed money being in the first 3 years of the new contract, that means there's probably an out after that, because that guaranteed money would hit the cap with huge dead cap numbers. So I'm guessing that's where it is. So it's built in probably after the first 3 years. We'll find out when we get the actual structure of the contract. But you're right. They always build in an escape hatch just in case something happens. He also got guarantees when it comes to injury. So Brock Purdy feels more comfortable with that. So, yeah, that's what they do, right? This is what the 49ers do when they build structure in contracts, is they build in these outs just in case. Now, what you're hoping is you don't have to use that. You can build it into the future, and the only reason you would use an out is to restructure a deal, sign a new extension, because Brock Purdy's playing so well and he's helping you win Super Bowls. That is the hope, but they definitely do that all the time. Sean says, with Brock locked in now, do you think we are insulated enough at the wide receiver position with Ayuk being an unknown? I think there's question marks when it comes to wide receiver, and you have to have weapons around Brock Purdy to be able to win. I think that if Robinson was not going to be suspended, they would feel pretty comfortable with this roster through the first 3 weeks, because you would have Jawan Jennings, you would have Ricky Pearsall, you would have Robinson, you would have Cowing, you have some guys, right? You have the new draft pick Watkins as well. I think the question mark, though, with Brandon Ayuk being out and Robinson potentially going to be suspended, you might need to pick up somebody else to play X to free up Jawan. Now, Jawan can play X. That kind of just moves everybody else around a little bit in how they're used. So they can get through it. They can definitely work through it. But I think that it would be in the 49ers' best interest, and I think they believe so too, with the fact that they met with Gabe Davis about potentially getting an X that they could put in. And, yeah, that would add extreme depth, especially through the first 3 weeks. If he gets suspended, Robinson gets suspended. So I think wide receiver still a potential target, unless one of those young guys is going to step up. And, I don't want to put too much on, late round draft picks, undrafted free agents to step in day one, or even guys you got that you sign, like a guy like Isaiah Hodgins. That's a lot to ask on these guys. And I think that would be tough. It's difficult, but yeah, I think they're still going to go after wide receivers. So I think it's still a possibility. What's up to my guy, Lou? How's it going? He says, hi, Ant. Always good, Lou, to have you in chat. Appreciate you coming through. And I like this from 49ers Eddie. He says, Brock leads San Francisco to the Super Bowl. Brock era has begun. He came up just short against the Kansas City Chiefs. And every time he left the field down the stretch, the 49ers had the lead. And I think that's something that the 49ers can invest in, and that's what they did. They said, you know what? This guy is worth $265 million because he got us to the brink. If we put a good roster around Brock Purdy, he can make plays. It wasn't like Brock Purdy just passed the ball and got out of everyone's way and let them do it. He made key runs. He made some scrambles, some big-time throws just to get there. You go back and you think about that Detroit game and the NFC Championship game. Brock made key scrambles, broke tackles, got away from sacks. It wasn't all on Brock Purdy because it was a complete team effort, but you don't win in spite of Brock. There's a lot of times you win because of Brock, and that is an elite category that he's in. So it's huge opportunity for Brock Purdy to go out there and do some more, and that's what I'm excited to see him do, and I think they paid him for it. And, this is interesting perspective from Stovey. And this is a perspective that fans are going to have. Team is screwed. We can't afford anyone. I think that that's a little bit, off. I'm just going to be honest, Stovey, and you're entitled to your opinion, but this is when you're talking about money that counts against the cap in 2025, it's going to count for just over 18% of the 49ers cap. That's 14th in the NFL contract wise. That's pretty good when considering signing a brand new quarterback. So they do have a lot of players that they have allocated funds to. Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner, George Kittle. Yeah, there's a lot of money. I don't think this one, though, the structure of it is the one that breaks the bank and makes the 49ers not able to afford anyone. I think that what it did was it actually built structure for the future, that as this salary cap continues to go up, that the 49ers feel comfortable that this contract's going to age well, and they are going to have to be able to build a roster around Brock Purdy. If you look at some of the other contracts for some of the other quarterbacks, there's other guys that sign contracts. All you have to do is look at Philly and what happened there. They signed a contract, and the quarterback signed a contract after losing the Super Bowl, and then 2 years later, they win the Super Bowl. So Jalen Hurts gets the contract, and they get it done because he didn't allocate too much money. They paid him a good amount, but they were able to figure it out, and they still pay their offensive line and wide receivers a ton. But I understand the perspective, and Stovey even says, the O-line will kill us, and I do think that that's a legitimate question. You do have a lot of resources into Trent Williams. If Trent's healthy and Dominic Pooney plays well, that's going to help. But they do have question marks. Who's going to start at left guard? That was what I was going to talk about today, offensive line originally. They do have a question mark at left guard. Who's going to start? They do have a question mark at center. Is Jake Brendel going to be more consistent? I don't know. I think that these are things that you have to worry about. Now it's even more important to have a really good offensive line surrounding Brock Purdy. And I was a guy who wanted O-line in round 2. So, yeah, I'm with you. I wanted the offensive line to improve around Brock Purdy, and that's something they're going to have to do for sure. I think that, it's a good thing for the 49ers to get him under contract, though. JD says, since Brock Purdy took over as full-time starter for the 49ers in Week 14 of 2022, he ranks top 5 in passing yards, total QBR, and leads all quarterbacks per attempt. Fantastic stats coming there. I love it. And that's what you want from your quarterback, somebody that's going to be consistent. My guy, John, how's it going? Says, no quarterback drama, revised coaching staff, all players in-house for offseason program, favorable schedule, play Super Bowl at Levi's, something's brewing. I love that, and I think that the optimism is there. And you have to have optimism if you're a 49er fan right now, because they are checking the boxes of getting the contract signed. They are checking the boxes of showing up and working out in these workouts. And Brock Purdy's a big part of that. He's a leader on this football team. And now there's nothing hanging over their head, because Fred Warner's contract is a little bit different than Brock and George Kittle in the fact that he has a couple years left on his deal. These two were expiring contracts, but I still think that is a deal, that needs to get done. So I love it. And David Campbell in the house says, happy Purdy Day, everyone. It is a good day. It is a good day for it. So, I'm still excited about Brock, and the deal that he got, and we're getting some people say, hey, 9-8, Big Daddy Niners says 12-5, maybe even better. I think the contract, plays into it. Mr. Joe, Mr. Joe said, 9-8. I think the schedule kind of plays out that 9-8 is a real realistic possibility, without them really winning any games that are, more questionable. I think they could easily win more than that. And Stovey brings up this point. You don't need any weapons. Purdy's a franchise quarterback. I think even franchise quarterbacks need weapons. You look at even Patrick Mahomes, and he's never been without Travis Kelce. And so even he has weapons around him, right? Joe Montana was a franchise quarterback, and he had Jerry Rice and John Taylor and Brent Jones, and before that, Russ Francis and Freddie Solomon. So they always have guys. Dwight Clark, I didn't even mention him. You always have guys. I do understand that thought process, though, right? When you're a franchise quarterback, you expect them to be able to take over a game at the end and win. And that's one of the things that Brock's going to have to do. He's going to have to play from behind. at some point and go down and win a football game. And so, yeah, I think at some point he's going to have to do that. But the dude is the 49ers franchise quarterback. And, it's okay to kind of be, upset with the process and the financials. It does happen. But I think that this is actually a favorable contract when you're talking about locking up a top 10 quarterback. And whether you feel like, he's on the level of Patrick Mahomes, and you're 100% right, Patrick Mahomes' contract doesn't equal these until his next contract comes up and he's going to blow it out of the water. With the Netflix deal and some of the other deals that are coming, you wait. Patrick Mahomes' eventual contract is going to be crazy. So I think that is going to be, pretty fun when we see some of those contracts come through, and this one will age pretty well. Ziggy says, hey, Ant, how much room do we have for the years after Brock's cap hit? The thing is, we got to wait for the structure of how this thing comes out before we know all the financial ramifications. And then we'll have an idea of what those financials are going to look like, especially, for how much money hits this year and beyond. Because when you say 53 million annually, it doesn't mean that 53 million counts against the cap this year, of course. And so we've got to wait on that a little bit. Once the structure comes out, we'll have a real clear picture on what that means financially. And John says, 262 got 265. Yeah, right. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Key says, what's up, Ant? Got a good deal. Brock is better than almost half the quarterbacks ahead of him in AAV. I think you're right. I think when you look at the guys that are up there, the elite guys that are ahead of him that are getting paid as such are Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I think those are the guys. I think the other guys, Dak Prescott, I'm taking Brock Purdy. Jordan Love, I'm taking Brock Purdy. Trevor Lawrence, I'm taking Brock. Tua Tagovailoa, I'm for sure taking Brock. And so, yeah, when you're talking about annual AAV, there's only a couple of guys right now, and Allen just got that new deal. So I think Burrow and Allen are the guys, and I think everybody else is subjective. And I think Tagovailoa and Lawrence, he's definitely better than. I think those contracts haven't aged well at all. So I think it's interesting, but I mean, there it is. I think you got a lot of really good money tied up in Brock Purdy, and I think 53 million, I think, is a good rate considering what people thought it was going to be. Interesting and filthy casual. I'm going to get to you in a second. I saw what you said. Here we go. Silent says both sides won this deal. Purdy can lock in on ball. Thanks so much for the super chat, Silent. And you are 100% right. Now he's able to focus and think about football and football only. No contract hanging over his head. None of those concerns. And we've been hearing he's having a good offseason. And this just kind of locks into it. But you're right. Now both sides can get into it. And I think that's impressive. And Filthy Casual says, hey, what do you think about the new kicker? I'll be honest, I haven't even had time to think about the new kicker, Filthy Casual. I seen that it came through. I saw that it came through shortly after the Brock Purdy thing. But when I got home from work, I just put my efforts into this. So I need to look up the new kicker. And I will get into that. And I am going to do an episode where I talk about special teams a lot. That was requested. And I do want to get into that. But that's a good question. I think that the 49ers said they were going to bring in a veteran kicker, and they did. And he has a lot of late second, game-winning field goals. So that's important. And here's Eric Schmidt. I just hope the line can protect Brock. And I think that's a key element to Brock's success is going to be the line being able to protect him. And one of the ways it's going to be a lot easier is if Christian McCaffrey can run the football. And so if this line can open up some holes in the running game, that's going to take the pressure off of Brock Purdy extensively. So you're right. Let's keep him healthy. And, that's what David's saying. If they stay healthy, last place schedule means double-digit wins easily. And I think that is it. That is exactly, what we're looking at when you're talking about this schedule is it's a possibility. And, Silent with another super chat says he did do that. Playoffs 23-24, no Purdy, no Super Bowl 58. Yes, I completely agree. Brock Purdy did a very good job in that playoff run. He made big-time plays when he needed to make big-time plays. And ultimately, that's all you can ask for from the quarterback. And when you get a deal like this done, you're paying him for what you think he's going to do. A lot of times players get contracts that pay him for what they did. this one is also paying him for what he's going to do. And they have full expectations, and Brock Purdy's got to wear them, of getting back to those situations again. And dude has got the ability. So here we go. Lombardi, this is according to David Campbell, says the cap hit is this year's $8 million only. I figured as much because of probably they're splitting the signing bonus, prorating it, but also the first part of the deal, the next 3 years is when he's going to get the big money. That wasn't this year, because this year they can leave it as the current deal, his rookie year, and then the next 3. So that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that, David, for you throwing that down. And what's up to my guy, Tommy, in the house? Says Ant-Man. What's up? How's it going, Tommy? Good to see you. New member, Eric Schmidt. Thank you for joining the Cutback crew. I really appreciate it. Becoming a YouTube member right here on YouTube and getting him part of the conversation. And, this is the thing that the 49ers needed to do. They needed to get a contract done with Brock Purdy. They did it. They needed it to be structured in a way that made sense for all parties, and they did. One of the things that was a struggle, I think, after the Brandon Ayuk deal, was a lot of people thought the 49ers got taken, to raked over the coals, basically, with that, taken to the woodshed with that contract. And, him being injured definitely made it a little bit more difficult. But with this one, I think right away, we're not really feeling that way. We're feeling like this one was good for both sides. Like Brock gave a little bit, the 49ers gave a little bit. 49ers probably wanted this to be closer to 50 million. Brock probably wanted this to be closer, to over 56 million. And you have guys that just came to an agreement. And I think that's really good to do is be able to work together to put together a great roster. And JD says, hit that like button. Yeah, please hit the like button. I really appreciate it. Lou says, Ant, do you get any sense that we go O-line next year to help Brock Purdy? And will it be business as usual? Once again, I do think that they are going to invest in offensive line at some point in the draft. I think that I wanted it to be this year. They did not do that. I was looking in the second round. They got Alfred Collins, and I love Alfred Collins. I'll give them credit for that. But I wanted like an Ariante Ursary. So I think that next year they're going to have to strike on offensive line. I think it's going to be a real need. You have so many free agents. You have your starting right tackle is going to be a free agent in Colton McKivitz. You have question marks about Trent Williams retiring. And then you have free agents in Ben Barch, Spencer Burford, Nick Sakel. Those guys are all going to be free agents. You have an aging center in Jake Brendel. Offensive line is going to have to be overhauled next year, more than likely. And so, yeah, I do think that they're going to invest in offensive line. And who knows, it might look very similar to what they just did in this draft, where they went heavy defense. Next year, it could be heavy offensive line. And so I think that that's, something that they're going to have to do. And they need to get guys that are going to be able to step in and make plays and get some things, and Edwin says this, Purdy signing is a big deal because the Ayuk debacle last year was so disruptive. It was. It became a lot more than it ever, should have been. And, and I just think that they're going to have to do it at some point. And maybe next year's the year. It is a heavy offensive line draft. Tommy did not like Kelvin Banks. He'll never be Trent Williams. No, I don't think anyone that was in this draft was going to be Trent Williams. And so I think that you weren't going to find a pure Trent Williams replacement, but it's hard to find a Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Famer at that point. And, B. Cologne says, I hope he can play better in bad weather. And we're going to find out when they play that game, the end of November against Cleveland Browns. We'll see. We'll see what the 49ers do with Brock Purdy, at the helm. Can he win one of those weather games? I think it's going to be something he needs to do. But the good news is the 49ers get the deal done, and it's a deal that sounds pretty good. 5 years, $265 million, with $181 million of that being guaranteed and 165 of it coming in the first 3 years. That runs through 2030. I think they did a really good job. I think that's going to benefit the 49ers greatly, and that's what they had to do. And guys, I'm going to check out. I really appreciate everyone coming through. 49ers extend Brock Purdy. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.